Hi, and welcome to Speaking from the Center. I am Tim.
Hi, I'm Nolan.
Today is August 11th, and you know what that means? The governor of New York resigned. That's what that means.
Oh, were we supposed to guess that?
I think so.
My phone went
But yeah,
quiet.
after much deliberation, I guess I don't know what took him so long, but
Well,
uh,
he was waiting for that report to come out because he thought he'd be vindicated in it. That
yeah,
he'd be proven innocent or whatever.
turns out he did it, and yeah, and then there were calls for him to resign, and he didn't do it for a couple of days, and then he was like, "I guess I have to." Even Biden was like, Andrew Cuomo needs to resign. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's something unique to the way the American governmental system is set up. You know,
Yeah.
governors have a fair amount of power.
Well, the I guess the issue was is that he wasn't going to resign, and he tried to explain away his actions, and then the New
Well,
York
you mean,
legislature got together and was like, "Well, if you don't resign, we're just going to impeach you."
yeah, I wonder why it took them so long to do that. Because this stuff, this came out months ago about his impropriety. Oh, look
There's a
who it is.
there's a Keith, but I think he lags.
Is there a Keith?
He, it there's oh there he goes. Bye.
Well, yeah, he was technically here for this episode. He can claim he was here.
So yeah, the legislature is like, "Well, if you don't resign, we're going to impeach you." And then he's like, "I guess I'm going to have to resign."
Yeah, again, I don't know why this took months.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I don't know what he was expecting out of this investigation either. Like, how was it in any way going to vindicate him? If
Keep going. Full sentences, Tim. We're live.
sorry, internet. Um, but yeah, there was in no way going to vindicate him. It was only going to make things worse, and that's exactly what it did. It proved that he did what he was accused. Well, at least the investigation showed that there's evidence that he did what he was accused of,
Right,
and
but he was
probably
already guilty in the court of public opinion.
oh
So,
yeah, yeah. This was like his saving grace if this investigation came out. Oh, Andrew Cuomo didn't do it, but he did.
yeah. So he was kind of hoping he was going to be vindicated. And then he wasn't because he's a governor in New York. So, of course, there's corruption and impropriety. You know, just like the guy they
So,
named the bridge after.
well, which guy?
His
All of
dad.
them? His Mario Cuomo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was he was another one too. Like I read some books that had him in it. Like it wasn't about him, but he was in the book, and he was like a Democratic like pillar back in like the early 90s late 80s, like he was the
Yeah.
guy that everyone wanted to run for president, and instead we got Bill Clinton. So
Yeah. Needed to
you
get
know,
that rural Southern vote, man.
but like at the Democratic conventions, like whenever he spoke, everyone was like, oh, Mario Cuomo needs to be the next president of the United States because that dude knows what's up. And Mario was like, I don't want anything to do with that.
I want to
No,
be a governor.
yeah, I don't want to be president of the United States. It sounds like way too much work.
Yeah. I mean, that's New Yorkers for you.
Yeah. So let's oh, and his successor, the now former lieutenant governor Kathy Ho Hochul, Kathy Hochul. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I hope I didn't mess it up too bad.
You messed it up.
Yeah, probably.
What
But
how does it spelled?
Hochul.
Oh, maybe not.
Maybe not. But she will officially be governor, I think, in about a week because Cuomo's also not resigning immediately. He said like 14 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
and
he's
she
got to
said,
get all of his other stuff in order so we don't find out about it.
yeah, yeah. Also, he's got to, I guess, clear his browser history.
That is an important thing to do, man.
All right, let's talk some international news.
Yeah.
Banger,
Okay. Well,
ticker.
the Olympics are finally fucking over.
How did we do? I don't even know.
Yeah, I didn't care either. I think we edged out China at the end for most gold medals, but like
Uh-huh.
we only won by one.
Yes, we had the most medals overall by a bunch, but we only had the most golds by one.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Man, the Russian Olympic Committee stacked up the medals too.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do that when you're on drugs. So, because there was
It's
still allegations of doping,
yeah,
even though, God, it's
it's
like you take the Russians out of Russia, but you can't take the Russia out of the Russians.
or the dope.
Well, that's kind of what was implied by the statement. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it literal.
Thanks.
But it's crazy how the International Olympic Committee justified having the Russian athletes there just because they had a different name and a different flag and different tracksuits. Like, they're still Russian athletes.
No, that tracksuit thing, that's a big deal in Russia.
I know it is. And their tracksuit was still the Russian flag colors. So,
You can
they
take
still
the Russians out of Russia, man. Can't take the Russia out of the Russians. They're gonna cheat every chance they can. And this is nothing new. They've been doing this shit since the Soviet days, man.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Rocky 4?
Yeah, I was about to say there's an entire Rocky movie made out of it.
Yeah. So, Russia gonna Russia.
Yeah, Russia gonna Russia.
But yeah, I mean, we did okay in the end, but man, what a rocky start we had in the Olympics.
Yeah, it was some rough stuff.
French beat us in basketball. We lost all the medals in skateboarding.
I still don't understand
Simone
that.
Biles controversy happened.
Yeah, we should have won the skateboarding medals. That's a shame.
The Simone Biles thing was funny because like we talked about it, and we were all like, yeah, it's really tough for those athletes. And then I would see other news reports, and they're like, Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast who's ever lived of all time. And then she competed and she got bronze, and I'm like, well, she can't be that great if she lost. Like, like
She's
you
no
can't.
Michael Phelps.
Well, you can't say she's the greatest whatever of all time if she's taken bronze.
Yeah.
She's the greatest gymnast in the world. Okay, I know you're on her side, but maybe pump the brakes a little bit because she took bronze, which means there's at least two people better than her. Like, I'm just saying.
Let's see, what else did we suck in? Oh, we got a gold in women's basketball.
Woo! Just as irrelevant as it is stateside.
We got a gold in women's volleyball.
That's nice. That's good. Those are some of the things we usually do very well in too.
Yeah.
They do not get enough attention. Like, women's basketball in the Olympics is no different than the NBA or WNBA that nobody watches.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
So yeah, the Olympics are over. Where do
the
they go
Olympics
next?
are over. Who cares?
I think they go to Paris. I think the next Olympics is in Paris.
Oh, the poor French bastards.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if the Olympics hurt Tokyo the way they hurt London, or some of the other cities.
That's the biggest problem with the Olympics these days. They're not the revenue generators they were. The whole prestige thing kind of doesn't matter. It just leaves the city broke with a bunch of expensive infrastructure crap they have nothing to do with.
Right. That's literally what happened to Brazil, because they built all these stadiums and now they're completely unused.
Yeah. Well, it's always the problem with the Olympics. It's great going into Eastern Europe and other former Soviet bloc countries and seeing the stuff they built for the Olympics, because it's just like, yes, this is what the post-apocalypse is supposed to look like.
Tons of My says the bronze in Karening was disappointing. someone should talk to the manager.
Yeah, right. Because we take bronze in that. We would always take gold, and you know it.
Yep. Yeah, we would probably take gold and silver.
Oh, without a doubt. And then the silver one would complain until they got gold.
Exactly. Everyone gets gold. If she has gold, I want gold.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to speak to someone at the International Olympic Committee about this.
But yeah, I think Beijing might be one of the only places where the Olympics didn't ruin stuff. Like now they just have more tourist attractions.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause I've been
Because
to the birdcage like twice, or bird's nest. Is that what they called it?
oh yeah, I remember that one.
I've been to the bird's nest like actually 2 or 3 times now that I think about it, and the water cube, which I
Yep.
think they opened up to like swimming clubs or something.
But I remember like London was like, oh, we have all this stuff we built and all this money wasted, and we're not going to get any of it back.
Yeah, well, that's what you get. It's London. Like, also, it's interesting because I know the security company that they contracted to do security for the Olympics in, was it 2012?
I think it was 2012.
The
Yeah.
2012 London Games.
Yeah.
I had just stopped working for that company, and they mismanaged their security at the Olympics so bad that vacation for everybody across the company got cut because they needed everybody to work for the maximum number of billable hours to make up the losses they
Jesus.
took providing security for the London Games.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to Afghanistan and the continuation of the great game.
It's not so great. The only people playing are the Taliban and the Afghan government. They need to tell those kids to go home. No one's looking for them. Hide and seek is over.
So the latest report is that Afghan soldiers in Kunduz, am I saying that right?
I have no clue.
All right, have surrendered. That's one of the major Afghan cities.
No, it's not.
And what's the capital of Afghanistan?
Kabul.
Kabul. Kabul's next, apparently.
Yeah, probably.
The Afghan security forces are folding like a house of cards, leaving behind equipment and vehicles as they go.
Yeah, what a
And-
shock.
Yeah.
Like, didn't we see the same fucking thing happen in Vietnam?
Yeah, and also Iraq for a good period of time too.
Right, but nothing's going to make us, thriving comeback
I know.
like the Iraqi security forces did when they went, "Fuck this, we've got bigger tanks."
Yeah. That's what happened. But the Afghan security forces, after
They don't have bigger tanks. We didn't give them any.
I know, but after like years and years of training, it's just
Look, I mean, I have seen this play out in history time and time and time again, and I'm not surprised. Like, kind of how the Taliban took over the first time a big Western nation invaded them. Oh, that was different. That was the Soviet Union. Yeah, different to us, not to them. Foreign power invaded and attempted to impose their governmental system and structure on the Afghan nation, and the Afghanis resisted.
So the Afghanis actually resisted communism and American democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a part of the world over there.
Oh God, yeah. No, they want their their Sharia law, man. That's what they want. And I mean, like, this is so eerily reminiscent not only of the collapse of the Republic of Vietnam, but also what happened to the nationalists in the Chinese Civil War in the late 40s.
Oh yeah.
The communist insurgency, the Chinese Communist Party held the rural areas.
Right.
The nationalist government tried to control the lines of communication, the railroads in the major cities. And what happened? The communists were able to isolate and destroy and cause massive nationalist armies to collapse and pack it in and give up.
Right.
Every
Yeah,
time.
It's that's why we shouldn't be in the business of nation building, because it
No, we should be, but we need to actually freaking stick to it like we did with the Germans and the French and Italy after World War II.
Well, yeah, we're not, but we're not. We weren't in it for anything other than to get the terrorists with Afghanistan.
Well, and to track down Osama bin Laden, who, despite all that shit, what's his name, the big Norwegian fellow,
Oh, Shartan.
despite all the stuff, all the shit he was talking that one show, like to the best of our intelligence at the time, that's where we thought he was.
Yeah. Yeah, and so strike another one in the America did great column for Afghanistan.
I mean, look, no one's ever been able to conquer the place in modern times. The British couldn't do it. The Russians couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. The last people to like effectively conquer them were like either the Mughal Empire. Basically, if you want to take down Afghanistan, ride in on a horse with a bunch of other people. That's
like
the only method that's ever worked.
Yeah, it's a sound strategy. And then stay there long enough. Like,
I don't know how much longer we could have stayed there, but the problem is that it isn't like we lost in the field. The political will in America dried up, just like it did in Vietnam.
Yeah. Yep. So that's an ongoing situation, and I hear that the countries around Afghanistan are now concerned because the Taliban are sweeping up.
What are they going to do? They're a radical Islamic isolationist faction. They're going to work on turning Afghanistan back to the 14th century with industrial aplomb when they take over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, let's move on to another fun country, Belarus.
Oh yeah, the saddest part of Russia.
Belarus said, "No, we don't want an American ambassador. You can keep him. We don't need him."
Yeah.
They said that they do not support or they don't trust the current United States administration, and they do not give consent for a U.S. ambassador to be there, and demand that the embassy cuts its staff and go home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Belarus was pretty badly embarrassed after the Tokyo Olympics, so.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Like the spoiled child they are, they're now lashing out.
That's these former Soviet bloc countries, I tell you.
We call them former Soviet, but we might as well call them pre-Russian.
Yeah,
because that's what's going to happen with Belarus. They're just going to get absorbed back.
Yeah, they're one of those countries that Russia would just be like, "We'll take that, please, thank you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the government in Belarus pretty much does whatever Moscow tells them to do as it is.
Right. Yeah.
And when their current political strongman dies, you can be pretty sure that they're just going to wind up right back into Russia's pocket.
Oh, and this was also apparently in reaction to a fresh round of economic sanctions against Belarus and its Russian-friendly companies.
They're really little more than a Russian satellite,
right?
And they're one of those places where if you've ever been there, it's like, yeah, it looks just like it did during the Soviet days. Only like 30 years has gone by. The biggest thing they have going for them in Belarus now, and I don't know how widespread this is, but it must be one of the few like foreign influences on their economy.
Uh-huh.
But a couple years ago, they kicked back on a bunch of the old factories that used to make equipment and uniforms for the Red Army during World War II. and
Okay.
World War One, and they have this industry of selling the uniforms reproduction style to
Oh,
movie studios, television studios, and collectors.
that's an interesting it's an interesting little economy they got going on
Yeah, other than that, I have no clue what the hell's going on. I don't think there's a lot of money flowing in and around Belarus these days. It's
I
actually
don't
really
think
funny
so.
because I went to the website that sells these uniforms and I was like, how much is this? It's like, oh my God, this is like $22,000. And I clicked on it. It was 22,000 Belarusian rubles, which was about $10 US.
That's funny.
It's like, oh, their economy sucks.
Let's see. What is their economy made up of? Oh, it's 50% petroleum oils. That's what they make. They make petroleum oils, minerals, chemicals, and fertilizer. That's most of their economy.
Cool.
Um, and they have a very crappy banking system. The Belarusian ruble depreciated. Oh my God. Yeah, that currency is worth nothing. Jesus.
What is it to the dollar?
The Belarusian, let's see. Oh, I'm gonna look this up now. It says it's depreciated like 50 something percent in the last like couple of years.
Shocker.
I'm gonna look it up versus the dollar. It's worth 40 American cents.
Wow.
Yeah, one Belarusian ruble is worth 40 cents. There you go. Let's move on
That's a
to
crap currency right there. Man,
yes.
$4, you could open your own business in Belarus.
I know. Let's see what it's. Well, let's for funsies. Let's see what it's against the euro. 32 cents of the euro. That's good. It's a good economy they got there. Let's switch back to America and let's talk some American news.
Oh
We already
boy.
talked about Cuomo. We don't need to mention him again. The Democrats have passed their. Well, I won't say the Democrats. The U.S. Senate passed the $1 trillion infrastructure package that they were trying to get done.
Yeah.
Um, it's surprisingly passed with more than a party line vote. A third of the Republicans in the Senate voted for it. And apparently that was in defiance of former President Trump. And
Yeah.
the House is going to get back together early because they're on vacation right now, but they're
They're
going to come
always
back
on
early and
vacation.
I know they're going to come back early and vote on it, and it'll get passed by the end of the month. And all the roads and the bridges will
Cool.
be
I can't
slightly
wait for
better.
all the traffic.
I know. We already have enough construction going on in Connecticut.
Cool. Maybe none of the infrastructures for us then, because
Maybe not. We do have a lot of shitty bridges, though.
no, those are called covered bridges, and it's what makes Connecticut so charming.
You should find out how much money is in there for covered bridges.
Fun
All of New
fact.
England would be like, how much is going into our covered bridges?
That's an important thing because for a lot of towns, that's it. That's their
Yeah,
whole
that's
tourist industry right here. Come see this fuck off covered bridge. Yay. Yeah, I was kind of surprised because I really didn't think that was going to get passed. They passed the budget too, right?
yep. They passed a resolution to start the budget, basically. So what happened was the Democrats voted. This was party line voted in the Senate to start the budget reconciliation process. And it's going to take them, I think, a week or so to get it done because it has to go through all the relevant committees. But yeah,
Yeah.
$3.5 billion, and it covers a lot. It covers universal pre-K. It covers free community college. It covers a lot of environmental stuff, Social Security,
I guess
Medicare.
what we can take away from this, I think, is that the Biden administration finally got done undoing all the bullshit executive orders that Trump did.
Yes.
Like
They
they finally finished countering all of his executive orders with all of their executive orders.
Yeah, and they finally like they sort of broke the Republicans on their filibuster of everything. And now the Republicans are, I mean, they're not working with the Democrats on this one, but at least they worked with them on the infrastructure bill. So there's a lot more happening than under the Trump administration.
Yeah, well, and hopefully that all this infrastructure will help generate more jobs because we had a very strong jobs market report for the last quarter, something like 900,000 jobs. Although in reality,
Yeah,
that's not
that's
that
not.
much. But it still showed a lot of growth.
Yeah, I think we're still short like 5 million jobs from when the pandemic began,
Yeah,
but the job market is recovering quicker than there are people to fill it.
yeah,
So that's, yeah, and they said that permanent unemployment was down and wages were up slightly. Like it was an overall good jobs report, showing that the economy is at least trying to recover.
yeah.
So that's good for the Biden administration. And then they're going to start working on the voting reform bill if they can get enough Republican support for that one.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. But I don't expect the voting one to ever happen.
Yeah, that's going to be a tougher sell because the Republicans really don't have uh, any sort of benefit. I mean, except for having democratic elections, but they don't see a benefit in voting reform.
Well, because it means people would all get to vote and have their voices heard equally rather than just their constituents.
Yeah, yeah. And in the infrastructure bill, at least they got a piece of the pie. Like they could go home to their districts and say, "Oh, I brought money back
Yeah.
from the government." But the voting stuff, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, I got you freer elections." That's
Nope. Nope.
no,
They don't want that.
they don't like that. In other U.S. news, Florida, man, they're reaching new heights in the COVID crisis over there.
Yeah. Good. Good.
And Governor DeSantis, uh, who first of all, fuck that guy. Where's I deleted my fuck Ron DeSantis banner, but whatever. Um, he put down a mandate against having towns and municipalities having a mask mandate. He said that any schools that do a mask mandate, he's going to defund them.
Now, he can do that because schools aren't federally funded.
Yeah, well, there is a part of federal funding that goes into schools, but it's like,
But the overall budget comes from within the state.
yeah, state funding goes to schools for the most part. So he can be like, oh, this district, you put in a mask mandate, looks like you don't get any more money. I mean, there is a question as to how legal that is if he actually tried to do it, but it's a threat that he's making.
Yeah. You
'Cause
know, that's the interesting part. A lot of the news you hear about these things, it's people making threats, but then you wonder, is there any actual follow through? Because all we hear about it is as if it had happened, when in reality it's just saber rattling.
yeah, and on the opposite end of it, he's begging the federal government for money for the hospitals that are now overcrowded from all the COVID patients.
Well, isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's funny how it works like that. He's like, oh, we have all these COVID cases, but no one's allowed to wear a mask. What are you people doing down there trying to make me look bad?
Yeah, because that's who's doing it. It's not him.
Yeah. And some of the other southern states are starting to turn the corner on being against some of the COVID stuff because I forget which state it was. I think it was Arkansas or what was that other state? Alabama or something like that. The governor was like, "Listen, you got to wear a mask. This is getting out of hand." Like some of the
Yeah.
southern states are starting to fall in line with it because their COVID cases are ridiculous.
Well, I mean,
And their
yeah.
healthcare systems are getting overwhelmed.
Again, this is the second time for some of these places. Like Florida just hasn't learned at all once during the entire pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like, who cares? Let them get sick and die.
And the same thing with Texas. Governor Abbott said, no, we're not allowing any mask mandates. But some of the schools in the Dallas Fort Worth area are like, we're doing it. And we don't give a fuck what you say because the kids should be wearing masks. So now they're butting heads with the governor. But I mean, the governor.
And again, it's very unique in America how powerful governors get to be, isn't it?
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it really is sort of an the whole thing about how America does things is so antiquated, but
but the states, the 10th Amendment, they get all the powers that the Constitution doesn't give the federal government.
And some the federal government does say they have because they want to. That's why you can't pass. That's why there's no federal gun laws.
Yeah. And the states can just apparently ignore some federal laws.
Well, that's the other thing we're running into, right? The government passes laws and then the states go, nah, we're not going to do that. And the federal government's like, no, you have to. And they're like, okay, how are you going to enforce it? And the federal government just sighs and goes, fine, whatever. It's still a law, but I guess you could do what you want. Because I mean, how do you enforce those things? The last time the U.S. government tried to enforce laws on states that didn't want to follow them, the fucking president had to send the 101st Airborne.
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama, mandatory desegregation of schools. Governor of the state of Alabama called out the National Guard to stop the desegregation process. So President Eisenhower sent the 101st Airborne to invade Alabama and force them.
Uh-oh. I think I lost Nolan. He froze. He's frozen.
I'm not frozen. You're frozen.
Oh, you were frozen.
You were frozen.
It was you.
You were the one frozen on my screen.
Listen, I wouldn't want to fuck with Eisenhower. Like, that dude seems like he means business all the time.
Yeah, well.
Like, Obama you could maybe fuck with. Bush Jr. you could fuck with, but I wouldn't fuck with Eisenhower.
No. Or Truman, for that matter.
Yeah, like...
AKA pickled herring.
Listen, that guy dropped the nuke on Japan. Like, you don't fuck with that guy.
Twice.
Yeah. He was like, you know what, guys? We got to nuke Japan. That's the only way we're going to win this. Let's just do it.
But that's the problem with these governors. Like, this is the second time we've come up talking about governors and how they're just like out of control. Whether it's Andrew Cuomo basically sexually harassing his entire staff.
Yep.
Or the governors in the South, like DeSantis, going, nah, no masks. COVID's a myth. But my hospitals are having troubles. Could I get some extra money?
Yeah, there's all these extra people in my hospital. I don't know what they're here for, but we need some money to help them out.
Correlation is not causation. It's just a coincidence. COVID's still a myth. Masks do nothing.
And his whole defense is that he wants to let the parents decide whether or not their kids wear a mask.
That's such a cop-out.
It is. That's his whole defense. Is he did a press conference. He's like, listen, I am 100% behind whatever parents want to do, but there are no mask mandates in the schools. First of all, he's doing the thing that he is against. He is mandating that there's no mask mandate, which means he's using his power, the government's power, to tell people what to do, which is something that he is against.
Right. I'm not going to tell people they have to wear a mask. In fact, I'm going to tell people they can't mandate wearing a mask. Ha! That'll fix it.
That'll teach those liberals trying to
Yeah.
use their government power to
Power
force
to-
people to wear masks.
I'm gonna use my government power to people can't wear masks.
Yeah, it's crazy. What else was I going to talk about? I got a whole list of things here. Ooh, okay. So we talked about Cuomo. Oh, Trump. There's Trump news. The Supreme Court.
No.
The Supreme Court says that Congress can look at Trump's taxes and they should do it soon. Apparently, Trump was trying to fight this in the courts because originally they were like, "Oh yeah, you can look at Trump's taxes. That's totally part of your fact-finding mission, the U.S. Senate." And then Trump was like, "No, I'm going to sue, so you can't do that." And the Supreme Court said, "You can look at them for a little bit." And
Trump
that's
was
what
the
happened.
last news I saw for Trump was where he called the Capitol police officer who shot and killed one of the rioters a murderer.
Yeah, and apparently he met with the family of the woman who was shot and killed.
Yeah. He's a murderer and we know where he is what he said.
That actually segues very nicely into the other Trump topic. The Homeland Security Administration is warning that there could be violence in August due to election misinformation by our former president, because apparently he's supposed to become president sometime this month again, and people want that to happen.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, they are warning
Oh,
state.
tons of mice. Trump was a guy from New York who did cameos in a lot of movies in the 90s, like Home Alone 2.
Yeah, and then he got a network show for a couple of years.
Oh, that's right. The Apprentice on what
Yeah.
channel was that on?
Man, I think that was NBC.
Probably. That sounds like some crap they'd put on because NBC's great at sitcoms, terrible at everything else.
Yeah, they let that run its course, and then I don't know what he did after that. He got some sort of government job.
Who cares? Kind of irrelevant after that.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, they've warned all the state capitals again. They warned DC that there could be protests that lead to violence because of Trump.
cool. Well, that's not going away anytime soon.
I guess not.
Yay for fascist paramilitary groups.
Yay! Yeah, it's
I
all
mean, really, it's just angry white people.
I mean, isn't that what it always is? Angry white people?
Not always. Not always.
Well, I mean, for this kind of stuff.
Oh, for this kind of stuff. Well, yeah. So that's the problem. And I it's a terrible thing to say, but it kind of means that like the mask for Republicans is dropping. You know, this mask that they just believe in the Constitution and the rights of the individual and you know the American exceptionalism, and what they really mean and what's becoming apparent is it means that they don't really care about democracy in the modern sense. They like it in the traditional American sense, where it was rich white landowning men could vote, and that was it.
Yes.
The idea of free and equal elections where everybody has an equal say and can cast their votes equally. No, 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 no. That's un-American. The true democratic system is rich white men.
Tons of mice says that they haven't seen cable in a while and they missed a lot of stuff.
Fuck you and me both, man.
I mean, it happens, right?
I stopped watching cable 2011. If I can't get it on the Netflix or the Hulus or the Prime or the Disney Plus, or I already have the DVDs, I don't watch it.
Yeah, well, let's see. When did I cut my cable? I was still living in Shelton, probably like 6 years ago, right? Like 2015-ish.
Do you guys not have cable at the house?
Nope, we got all the social media. We got the subscriber thingies.
The subscription things, yeah. Yeah, we got a bunch of those. We do still technically have cable, but we never watch it.
You know what's really weird? It's really hard to not have cable if you get a new like cable subscription / Wi-Fi subscription. Like, because the packages are all less expensive if you have like cable and Wi-Fi. So like we wanted just Wi-Fi from, I think it was Optimum we have. And they're like, well, it'll be cheaper if you get like the basic cable package too. And we're like, no, fuck that. I don't want you to raise my rates $30 next year. And
Yeah.
we were just like, listen, just give us the Wi-Fi rate and fuck off.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you could save more money if you had a. They wanted to sell us a landline too, and we were like, fuck that shit.
You know, that's the funny thing. We got signed up for that. We have cable, internet, and a landline. But the day the guy came to set up the landline, it was like, oh, it's kind of late. I don't know. And the people who were watching it get installed were like, oh, that's okay. You can go. And I got home. I'm like, where's my home phone? And they've never, I'm like, we got to call them. We either have to get it off the bill or tell them to set the goddamn thing up. I don't want to call them. It's too much work. It's like, no, this is bullshit.
Yeah, and like that the problem is that the cable companies are so like territoried into where they're gonna be. Like it doesn't matter who you got. Could be AT&T or Optimum or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And you're stuck with like one or two providers and that's it. And
oh yeah.
and you pay whatever price to, like we had Frontier for a while. Frontier sucked the most. And we were like, fuck that shit. We got to get some, because their internet was like, I don't know, 40 kilobytes or whatever it was per second. And it was so fucking slow. So we went with Optimum. We got like way better internet, but we didn't want the TV. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. Is that what grinds your gears?
And that's what grinds my gears.
Oh, you know the
cable
funny
providers.
That's such a dated reference now too. Oh man.
Yeah, that's my rant today. Is the monopoly of cable providers.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Oh, they're all territoried up, and it's basically a monopoly. But you know,
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with the utilities. Don't get me started on the utilities. Fucking UI, you bastards.
could be worse. We could be living in Texas.
No, it could be worse. We could have EverSource.
I thought we did have EverSource.
No, we have UI.
Oh, okay.
We could have EverSource though, and they're shit. They've been sued so many times in the last couple of years that, like, I'm surprised they're still in business.
I think I did have EverSource for a while when I lived in Derby. God, that
you
was
probably
a nightmare.
did. That's probably EverSource territory down there.
I don't know that it was particularly bad service. I just hated living in Derby.
Well, yeah, that's because dirty.
Dirty is Derby? No,
Yep.
you said it right. Dirty is Derby. There you go.
Derby is dirty and tiny.
So yeah, Trump causing uprisings and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just Trump. It's just the fucking QAnon people.
I thought most of that got stamped out, honestly.
Well, apparently it's enough of a problem that the Homeland Security had to be like, hey, listen, shit might go down.
Shit is about to go down.
And you know, they don't fuck around with that stuff either. Apparently, I was reading a little bit more of the article. They've been telling local police departments everywhere that if there's a threat in your area, they're telling you, and they'll be like, listen, these people might do some shit. Be prepared.
I mean, that's stupid. Don't tell the cops.
They're
just going to go tell them.
Just show up. Hey, so we heard that you guys are going to start some shit. You might want to wait a little bit.
Yeah. They're all expecting it in August. So do it in September. Like, because you know there are cops that are part of that shit.
Yeah. For sure. They were at the January 6th
peaceful tourist event.
Trump party.
Yeah, that's what I said. The peaceful tourist event.
Yeah, there were a bunch of cops that have been arrested as insurgents. So
yeah,
That's it's baffling. The swath of society that was there. It
Yeah, of
was
course, man. Crazy knows no bounds. And QAnon has a very effective propaganda machine. Joseph Goebbels would be proud.
uh
That's a really dated reference
that
right there.
is, yeah. I was gonna say, like, yeah, and half of those people, they follow that line of thinking, but they probably don't know who Joseph Goebbels
Yeah,
is,
no, exactly. Yeah.
because some of them had that, the was like 6 million's not enough or whatever t-shirts
Oh, yeah.
on the
Yeah, there
Holocaust
was
thing.
I saw them interviewing, I think it was Sacha Baron Cohen, because he got in with those people when he did his Borat sequel.
Yes.
And he was like, I mean, at least they're not denying it now.
Yeah. Oh, he froze again. Is it me
You
freezing or is it you
you
freezing?
you froze.
You froze. Anyway, Tons of Mice said Antifa's busy in August, so wait till September so we can blame them. Gotta be thinking.
Oh, there's a great thing I saw after the riot. There's a picture of this dog sitting next to like this torn apart thing of like garbage. And the dog's looking at the camera and the caption reads, "Look what Antifa." Tim,
What?
you
You
freezing up
froze
on me.
again. You froze
You
again.
freeze on my screen.
You froze again. I'm gonna watch this back and we'll see who froze.
Okay, from my screen, you froze.
From my screen, you froze.
Okay, then you know what that means? We both have shitty internet.
That's true. Fucking Optimum.
The cable companies heard us ripping on them and they're fucking with
I
us.
know. They're like, we're gonna throttle his internet. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Which is sad because we're like less than 5 minutes walking distance from each other.
Goebbels invented popcorn or something?
Sure, why not? He would probably take credit for that if he didn't think popcorn was a degenerate Western snack food that will weaken the Aryan people, which he probably did.
That's how we beat the Germans. We gave them popcorn. That's what
Yeah.
happened. All the paratroopers that came over in D-Day, they all had like a thing of popcorn with them. And they were like, listen, give this to a German soldier when you see him and they don't kill you. And they'll try the popcorn and that will defeat them.
Yeah, yeah, that's what defeated the Germans, not 5 million Russians. No, no, no. The American popcorn in trucks.
I was talking to someone about that the other day, and they're like, so, what would have happened if the Russians didn't get involved in World War II? I was like, well, there wouldn't have been an Eastern Front, and the Germans would have overran Europe.
Yeah, we'd have lost. Well, so we wouldn't have lost. England would have lost
For sure.
eventually. Not in any time quickly.
Yeah, because if the Russians didn't get their shit together in time to open up an Eastern Front, England would have been Nazi occupied for sure.
I don't know. I've looked at the numbers. It would have been an interesting stalemate for a long time, and then the Russians would have attacked anyway.
Would they just been like staring at each other over the English Channel and be like,
Look, I like
you
here's
Russians,
yeah,
you
kind
Germans?
that's sort of how it would have gone because I've looked at the numbers and like the German Navy got decimated invading Norway. Like I saw a comparison. It's like before the Norwegian campaign, here's what the German Navy was at, and here's what the British Navy is at. And the British Navy's definitely bigger, but the Germans got some stuff. After the invasion of Norway, the British Navy is somehow even bigger, and the German Navy's like one battleship, 2 cruisers, 10 destroyers, and that was it. Meanwhile, the British Navy's got like 2 aircraft carriers, 10 battleships, 50 cruisers, and like 150 destroyers. It was like.
So what you're saying is the German soldiers would have had to swim across the English Channel
one at a time, very slowly, and hope no one noticed.
Yeah, we're talking about like I think the conversation started. We were talking about Man in the High Castle.
Completely unrealistic, yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about like what would have been the conditions for Germany to win, and I was like, well, Russia can't enter the war at all. Like Russia has to stay a neutral party, otherwise they would have been fucked.
Yeah, no, war over. And that's the other problem. The Germans were never getting across the Atlantic.
No,
There
never.
is there is no scenario where they ever like I love Man in the High Castle for like the high concept piece that it is. But realistically, I look at that and go, no. Like, how did they get here? Did somebody from the future go back in time and give them lasers? Like, no,
All those
never.
experimental Nazi like jet fighters and all that were like super effective. Like those rocket powered things that were basically like suicide machines.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the funny part. Everybody's like, yeah, those rocket things, they were really ahead of their time. So ahead of their time, in fact, that the metallurgy didn't exist to make metals that were capable of sustained rocket flight. Every one of Germany's jet fighters burnt out because the metal got too worn.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the metallurgic science did not exist to create the material capable of housing and supporting jet travel.
Yeah, and like there's so many things that would have to like not happen in order for Germany to have won that war. The Manhattan Project would have to be a failure. The Russians couldn't enter the war. The Japanese would have to be successful in their naval campaign. Like
I
they would
mean,
have
look,
to.
of all the things that could have happened, Japan being a little more successful than they were navally early on is at least realistic.
Yeah. Well,
But that
they
does
came.
not mean Japan is going to occupy California.
Yeah, but the Japanese at least came to like they had the U.S. Navy down to one main fucking
Carrier group, yeah.
carrier group. Yeah, and that carrier group was the last line of defense for the Pacific Islands, at least.
Yeah. Hawaii would have
And
been occupied.
yeah, Hawaii would have been occupied, but a mainland invasion of the United States was
Never.
yeah.
That was never gonna. They didn't have the logistics to support operations in China and Russia simultaneously. That was part of
Yeah.
the reason they never went to war with the Russians.
They
How
just
in
stared at
the
each other.
how in the hell were they going to invade America?
They weren't.
Here's
And
the
that's
crazy
and
part. Part of the reason the Japanese equipment was also light was because everything they made had to be shipped off the home islands. It's like, why didn't Japan have bigger artillery or bigger tanks? Because doing that would have put more weight on the ships, which means they would have needed more fuel to get the ship places with the stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
So literally they were at a disadvantage from the start.
Yeah, if they had shown up at on the Californian shores, like that would have been it, man. There would have been
Done.
some heavy American artillery on that shit.
And never mind the fact Japan was very successful against aircraft carriers. How do you sink a continent?
Right. You don't.
You don't.
And even if they had managed an amphibious assault, let's say on San Francisco, the Western Coast is a big fucking place, man. They would have been outflanked immediately.
Oh yeah. The most realistic place for an invasion I have seen was them trying to seize Seattle.
Yeah.
They could have overrun Victoria Island in British Columbia, used it as a base, and then launched a full-scale invasion of Seattle and then gotten stomped into the ground.
Yeah.
Because they were very successful navally and amphibiously because there's only so many places you can come at an island from. That's exactly what the theories are. They're crackerjack tons of mice. I just, I've read a lot of alternate history and never in any of them, to be even a little bit believable, do they ever posit an Axis invasion of the United States.
Because there's too much ocean between the United States and Europe, or the United States and Asia.
There's too much ocean, and there are too many people here with guns.
Can you imagine them showing up?
Even back then.
And some like backwoods motherfuckers showed up with guns, and they're like, "Get off our land!"
God.
They wouldn't
Japan
know what to do
lands
with
somewhere,
them.
they're immediately arrested and interned.
By just some like yokels too, not like actual soldiers. Just some guy showed up on the beach and was like, "Hey, you don't belong here."
The Japanese land, and they're met by like the backwood boys out of the redwood forest with shotguns and carbines.
But it would have been
National Guard shows up. It's like, yeah, we beat them. They're all set.
It would have been the same with the Germans landing on, let's say, any southern American coast. Like, a militia would have found them.
Yeah.
And that would have been it. Like, there's some crazy motherfuckers with guns in the South.
Yeah. No, they'd have to. And the worst part is like the closest place logistically in both scenarios is somewhere in the northern half of the country.
Yeah.
So, like for the Germans, they'd have to go for Boston, to which I say good luck. Could you imagine Panzer Corps trying to navigate on the T line in and around Boston?
You're going through the Big Dig?
Like New York would have made sense to the Germans. It's a grid. Boston, it's like, I don't know where we are.
This road says one way. Where do we go?
Yeah. These roads go in circles. I don't know where we are. I wish we were fighting on those mud trails in Russia. This sucks.
They just show up to Boston, see the streets, and like, there's no way we're getting through this.
We surrender.
Or even if they started somewhere with like a low population, like say they landed in like Portland, Maine. Who are they? Have Maine. We'll take it back at some point.
Yeah, no. And that's the problem is they didn't have enough ships to get to England. And that's only like a 45-minute boat ride away.
Although I will tell you, those Italians could have made a decent run at it. Because I played a game of Darkest Hour where the Italians invaded America. They landed in Virginia and they got pretty far before I stopped them.
The best place for the Italians to invade is New York because they would have known like half the people there. Because when we invaded Sicily and Italy, that's what kept happening. Guys from New York were running into relatives of theirs.
He kept running into cousins and...
Yeah, no, that routinely happened.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah, this guy, he's a corporal in the army. His platoon wants to surrender. Oh, okay, how'd you get that to happen? Well, he's my second cousin. My dad and his dad were cousins over here in Italy.
Oh, man. But yeah, man, there's no, there's no way that the Germans, once Russia enters the war, there's no way the Germans win it.
Yeah. Once one way or the other, the Germans invade, the Russians invade. Either way, the war is over and the Soviet Union is in the winner's circle.
Yeah.
The question is by how much?
Once again, because the Soviet Union is so vast, any invasion into the Soviet Union, you're outflanked once you get a certain distance in.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about logistics for invading America. The Germans didn't have the logistics to invade Russia, and they could walk there.
Didn't they learn anything from Napoleon? You need cold weather gear.
No.
You need the tundra gear.
Need to produce winter equipment. Oh man. Boy, did we get off topic.
Yeah, we spent like 15 minutes talking about alternate history. There you go.
There you go.
I mean, there was a lot of news, but it wasn't. We live in Biden times. Nothing is extreme anymore.
We've got another caretaker president.
We do. And he's not doing a bad job. I won't say that he's doing a great job, but he's not doing a bad job.
Right. He is adequate.
He is average.
Mr. Adequate Bar.
I would say that he is perfectly average for a president. And
yeah,
he's agreeable as a human being.
He's like James Polk. Nobody will remember him, but he was an average caretaker president.
Exactly.
Or James Garfield, who served 2 non-consecutive terms. That's how adequate he was.
And when you tell someone there was a president named James Garfield, they're like, the cat?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what Biden is going to be. We had a president named Biden. What was he? Like somebody's house pet? Yeah, kind of. He was Obama's house pet for 8 years.
Yeah, like, the great thing about Biden is you don't hear about him every day.
I know,
doing
it's lovely.
something.
Oh, it's
but
lovely.
you don't need to know about it.
Yeah.
He's not up at all hours of the night tweeting crazy shit on the internet.
It's so nice and calming to have
There's no
you
like
know.
impending sense of doom every day when you wake up and you're like, Trump said this on the internet and now North Korea is upset. Oh, by the way, North Korea is upset. That was one of the other things I was going to talk about, but it's not really like it's North Korea.
Who cares? They're always upset. Or at
They're
least we think so. It's hard to tell what they're doing from under that rock.
Apparently, there's escalating tensions with North Korea once again. They must want something from us.
Yeah.
They must want some sort of money or vaccines or something.
Actually, I'd be really surprised if there were any COVID cases in North Korea. Like how? People would have to be able to
True.
leave and go in.
Yeah, North Korea is not one of those countries where there's like a lot going on COVID wise. They've seen an increase in cases lately, but it's like everyone else. They've warned of grave consequences if they don't get vaccines, I think. Let's see. Oh, this is very recent. Kim Jong-un fired several senior officials who failed to enforce North Korea's stringent COVID-19 prevention policy. He called it a dereliction of duty and said there will be grave consequences for people who don't do what he wants.
I mean, so that's business as usual. Is that really an escalation in tension? That's just sort of, isn't that what we just call Wednesday in North Korea?
Yeah, really. Like, he said that he wasn't a fan of how well or not well the North Korean Olympic team did. And he wants vaccines. That's what he wants.
We should give him some.
Pyongyang wants vaccines.
We should give them to him.
Our
people have had enough opportunity to get vaccinated.
Yeah, you know what? That should be a marketing campaign for COVID vaccines in America. If you don't get a vaccine, we're going to give it to the North Koreans.
You'd be amazed how many people would get vaccinated. All those red states where they're against it would be like, well, I'm not letting those commies get it. Like that.
It would be like that line that moms used to give about their starving children in China.
Yeah.
So you better eat your food. You better get your vaccine because there's unvaccinated people in North Korea and they need it.
Yeah.
So that's the speaking from the center public service announcement. Get your vaccine or we'll give it to North Korea.
Yeah. Get vaccinated or they're going to Pyongyang. And we don't even know what they're going to do with them over there.
Yeah, they're not going to tell us. We're just going to give them the vaccines. They're going to be like, thanks, go away.
Yeah, like they are with everything else.
They'll make some sort of museum about it that we gave them the vaccines and then they stomped on them or whatever.
Yeah, basically very North Korean style things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
do you want to plug the other show and then we'll skedaddle?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think I got a banner here for it.
Ooh.
I got a banner for the Twitch stream. There we go.
Are we going to be able to broadcast on Facebook next time?
Yes. Yes, we will. Come awesome. Hell or high water, we will broadcast on Facebook.
Excellent. But yeah, come check us out next week for the second episode of Sitcom and Carry On, where we'll be talking about the sitcom's past, how it links to the future, and the timeline in between.
Oh, apparently I was wrong, maybe. Did I say Garfield? Did you say Garfield?
Maybe.
Garfield was assassinated? Boy, I don't remember that part of American history.
Yeah, caretaker president.
It was Grover Cleveland.
Actually, Garfield may have been the guy who got assassinated that got Teddy Roosevelt, his first crack in office.
Well, thanks Tons of Mice for our history lesson for the day.
Yeah.
Back to sitcom and carry on.
Yeah. Join
The
us. Go
the
ahead.
opposite Wednesdays from this show.
The opposite Wednesdays, 8 to 9. And next week we're talking about sitcoms and time.
And we'll be on the Facebooks and YouTubes and the Twitch, which is down there, and there will be a Patreon by the time we do the next show.
Awesome.
Nolan, I am obligated to inform you that we have a new producer.
Oh, okay.
His name is Gabe.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know that.
Cool.
He's owed a show.
Have fun with that.
Apparently that was McKinley who gave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you how important Cleveland was. And still is. God, who cares about Cleveland?
Right? Wasn't okay.
Wasn't even one of the good Seth MacFarlane shows.
Speaking of sitcoms.
Yeah.
All right. So next week will be an episode of Sitcom and Carry On, and then the week after that is the next episode of Speaking from the Center. So you'll see Speaking from the Center again on August 25th.
Sounds good.
And we'll have, hopefully, August is a very shitty, slow political month because usually Congress is away, and once again we have a boring president who doesn't do anything. So unless Trump actually becomes president again, assume that we will have a topic that is not the news. We'll pick some sort of political topic that isn't like in the news right now because there is no news. I used up all the news today.
We'll see what happens in 2 weeks. Yay.
Maybe we'll become a socialist paradise. Who knows?
Maybe.
But that's it for Speaking from the Center. Before we go, I'll put up here's the socials for Speaking from the Center. Follow us on the YouTube and the Twitch while Nolan waves very hard. And Facebook, and become a producer like Gabe and Jenna, and go to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/sftc, and contribute to the show. There it goes right now. Okay, that's it right there. And bye.